Hi, this is Dr. Dan with Inflatable Stories. Now, if you're a fan, this may not be the video for you. If you're a balloon sculptor, you may love it, because I'm about to give an in-depth tour of a few of the coolest pumps I use, my electric pumps. Now, if you are a balloon person yourself, you might have gone shopping and you might have seen these, wondered what they could do, and specifically with the bigger Lagenda, wondered exactly how it operates, because being a product made around the world, the instructions aren't in English and it's a little bit tricky to learn to work. So I want to give you a tour today. The first little guy, this is my baby Lagenda here. This one is great for twisters. Now there are pumps out there that have higher volume but a little bit lower pressure, and there are pumps with higher pressure but lower volume. This one has higher pressure. I'm going to set the case to it. To the side, it is a pretty nice case that comes with it. It comes with a case and a power cord and this little nozzle that'll spin off and on, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty heavy-duty nozzle, not expecting anything to happen to it. You'll notice that I've got it turned on and it is not plugged in. Same power cord actually works with both of these pumps. I've left it unplugged so you can see it without the cord. I haven't noticed any difference in power regardless of whether you're using it or not. But the fun thing about this pump is it is a beast. Take your 160s, they're your thinnest balloon people tend to work with, and they're your hardest to inflate. I'll put this on here and you'll see just no problem whatsoever blowing that up. Same thing, 260s, still no problem. And to inflate this 260, I'm going to show you the timer. If you hit the shift button here, and you can see before I hit shift, you've got the battery over here. It's got an indicator. You can see I'm not fully charged. I've got 2 out of the 4 bars right now. But if you hit the shift button, you'll see one side blinks. Then using the bottom button, I can bump it up or down. To set the time, I'll set it at 0.6 here. I'll hit the shift button again. Then I'll go, well, yeah, I bumped all the way up. You'll see you can't go past 9 in this first one or in either of them. So 9.9 seconds is the longest timer you can set on either of those. I'll go for 2.6. You can see that. I'll hit shift again to lock it in. And then put my balloon on and you see it inflated it this far. I know if I need to just inflate a whole lot of 260 Qs, I'm a Qualitex user. That's one of the major balloon brands. It's the one I usually use, though there's a lot of great balloons out there. And there's a lot of terrible balloons out there, so be careful what you buy. But if I need to inflate a whole lot of these at once, I can zone out, boom, inflate, tie. I don't even have to watch how big it's getting, which is fun. So this is a great pump. The challenge of this pump being, if I go to inflate something big, because it's a higher pressure pump and it's not made for the big volumes, if I take, let's say, this 646Q here and put it on here, it can do it because it's high pressure, but because it's low volume, I've got to do it forever. And I've still got my timer set for the 260Q, so you can really see the comparison. We've got that 2.6 second timer. I've done it 4 times and it's only this big. So phenomenal pump, great twister pump. I've enjoyed working with it. I usually use a floor pump if I'm really doing stuff for people in person because they work well and there's no sound. But if I just want to relax a little more and not have to stand up while I'm preparing balloons, this is a fantastic pump to use. So let's take a look at the big guy. I'm going to turn this off. One great thing about this, it's mobile. Took it to Europe with me, had to take it in my carry-on, but had it in my carry-on. Really no troubles. To be honest, I was all ready for Border Patrol to ask me questions, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. We don't care about that pump. So not really a problem. You don't want to put it in your luggage that goes under the plane, but from everything I've seen, carry-on's no big deal. My personal experience, carry-on. And both pumps, one final thing, they both got this cool handle that pops up and down. it feels well built. Like it's a good pump. Now let's take a look at its big brother. Now its big brother here, the core pump would be more its category. It doesn't have the ability to go with battery power. It's got good pressure, but it nails the volume. So you see a much bigger footprint here. Still not ridiculous for what it can do. I'm going to plug in the power cable because I can't go with the batteries here. So I'll hook that in. One thing that the smaller pump can handle, it doesn't use the same foot pedal, but my understanding is that you can get a foot pedal for the smaller pump. I know you can link two of those together. I've never done either of those things. But you see this bigger one, it comes with a foot pedal. Got two holes there, a screw cap. And what you can do with that is plug it right on in here. Boom. Screw it on. Like a lot of other sculptors that I've seen videos from have said, this button is perfect, so you don't usually need the foot pedal. But the button just works exactly like the foot pedal. So if you want that feature, very handy. It comes with the power cable. I don't know if this is standard. Mine came with 3 of the nozzle dealy bobbers. I believe dealy bobber is the technical term. Came with 3 of these. So it's pretty nice. You just screw them on there. They are plastic, but they feel stout, and they attach to what appears to be a brass threading. So that looks really nice. You've got this part that just pops on, pops off if you're working with smaller balloons. So that, I feel like, works pretty well. And what I'm going to do, I've got the on button on the side here. With the first pump, it was on the back, and you use button to start it. This one, there's an on button on the side, and you'll hear when I turn it on that a fan comes on. Hear that? That fan keeps this pump from overheating, which is huge. My understanding is the way it's made, it's never supposed to overheat, and I certainly haven't gotten anywhere close to that, but I haven't done more than a few hundred balloons at a time so far. So you turn it on, then you've got the button, or you've got the foot pedal. Creates a nice little breeze that feels great. Now when you go to use this pump, a couple of things you should know. Let's start with the buttons, and then we'll have the real fun of inflating balloons. You may have seen this start moving when I first pushed the button. If you go K0, you see we've got a lot of buttons here. K0 to K5 are presets. K0 is always, you guessed it, zeros. So if I hit K0 and then I hit the button, I can run it for whatever time I want to. You see it bumped up to 2.2. Now, a fun thing here is after I run it from that K0, this comes to 2.2. It holds that time until I change it. Now, the other thing I can do is I can hit the button here. If I go with the up-down button on the left, the plus-minus, it'll bump both timers up or down. If I use the one on the right side, it bumps just one up. So I can have 2 separate timers, which is really fun. So I can have 2.2 over here, 2.9 over here, if I need balloons in 2 different sizes. Now, if I zero that out, if I hit it once, you'll see that zeroes out the quantity, because this is a timer, but this display also shows the number of balloons you've inflated at some point. And also, you can use the increase-decrease button if you've got something on the counter to bump it up or down if your count gets off, which is really handy if you're doing a lot of balloons and you want to be able to zone out and not worry so much about how many you've counted. Now, one of the trickiest things for me to figure out, I'm going to zero both of these out, were these K1 to K5 buttons, how to program them. They come with some programming in them. Right now I've got this one programmed to 2.4, to 1.4, 2.0, 6.6, 8.9. You are not stuck with these settings. So what you can do, you can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to zero it out. Then I'm going to run. Let's go 0.7 on each. Let's say I wanted to bump that one up to a full second. I'm going to push the K1 button now with these 2 times selected. I'm going to hold it about 2 seconds. You see it blinks momentarily, then stops. And now I'm going to switch back to 0. Then when I go to K1 again, that is stored, which is so helpful if you want to have 2 different times on the balloons. Now, if I didn't want 2 different times, if I just left them both 0.7, K1 would have stored 0.7 for both. In fact, I'll bump that back down to 0.7. Hold that K1 button down again. Boom, 0.7 is locked in. When I go back to it, you see 0.7 on both of those. Now, let's say you're inflating a whole lot of balloons of a whole lot of different sizes, and you want to zero out, but you don't want it to automatically stay at whatever you use on the first balloon. So let's say I use this 0.5. If I don't do anything else, it just keeps going at 0.5 indefinitely, which isn't always what you want. The best way I found around this, I just go K0, push it a second, I bump them both back down to 0, and then once I bump them back down to 0, no problem. I'm sure there are several ways to convince it to do that. I kind of wish there were a single button just to make it do that, but I get that hardware costs money and takes more programming and gives more opportunity for things to go wrong. So it's really not bad at all once you get used to it. So, great pump. I think that's all the buttons. Now, I'm going to show you the app after we inflate some balloons, because the app is pretty cool if you want that kind of bonus to the balloons. But I'll start small with the balloons and we'll work our way up. First challenge, 160s. Now, I'll tell you, 160s are hit and miss with this. The rough draft of this video was a hit. This pump nailed the 160. For it to ever work, you got to give it a tug as you go. Same case for 260s. But let's see if the 160 wants to work today. So, I'm a bit glad it worked that way, because that shows you the real situation. Like I say, there was a demo video that came out blurry, and in that video, it zipped right up, and if you were watching it, you would think, oh, I'm going to use that to inflate 160s. Problem is, it's not reliable. You don't want to pull it out to use on 160s, but in a bind, if you need a 160 inflated, you could do it. Now, let's take a look at a 260 here. I don't think you can really do two 260s at once, because I find that if you don't stretch as you inflate this, it really doesn't work. Okay. Maybe it kind of works, but sometimes it just doesn't go up. Now, what I've found, I'm going to get a fresh balloon for this. What I find is if I stretch as I inflate it, as long as I give it that mild stretch as I inflate it, it can really tear a 260 up. And even though it can't do it without that mild stretch, with that stretch, I think it actually does it. Well, you saw how quickly that was. I don't have the time, but I'm pretty sure that was well under a second. On my little Lagenda, it takes, you saw, about 2.4 seconds to inflate a 260. So, if I really needed to inflate a lot of 260s in a hurry, I might very well go for this pump instead of the smaller Lagenda for 260s. Now, when you get above 260s, that's when this pump gets cool. So let's start by taking a look at a couple of 350s here. See what it can do with these two green 350s. Now that was right to the end of those 350 balloons. So it can tear up the 350. Now let's take a look at a couple of Rounds, I've got a couple of 11-inch rounds here. No problem. And it's pretty, whoop, sorry, hit it on the nozzle there, I believe. A little bit too hard, and I had them pretty full. But a cool thing about that, obviously, if you're into decor, inflating two at once, you can just tie the nozzles right together, which, me coming from the twister world, that is such a cool and crazy phenomenon. Then, let's see, we got our 16 inches getting into big dogs. So what I'm going to do, as these get bigger, I'm going to take these little nozzles off. Take those off so it can do even faster with these. Obviously, I'm not standing on the side of the pump I'd normally want to. But let's see these 16 inchers. So you see it inflates those up pretty well. Does a pretty good job. Sometimes I wonder if they're a little bit off on sizes. In this case, the angle I was holding at, hard to make sure no air escaped. So I think that's why the yellow one inflated slightly differently, plus just different colors, slightly different shapes in these two balloons cases. Hi, fella. Alright, so it really nails balloons pretty well. I don't think I did a 646 for you yet, so let's take a look at a couple of these 646s. No problem at all with the 646s. And so, big finale. What I love, and to be honest, we're going to see how this goes. I've never tried it before. I wanted to let you see me inflate a fresh 3-foot balloon, but like I told you, that was a practice run. I ended up deflating the 3-foot to save it for later after that. So one of these has been stretched a little bit in advance, but I want to see how this handles 2 3-foot balloons at once, which I haven't seen anybody do. It's going to get a little cramped on the pump. This, I think, is where a foot pedal might be handy. But let's see 3 3-foot balloons at the same time. Wow, 2 of these at the same time. Now I do some of these in my work. I'm occasionally going to need to use several of these at once. So being able to inflate 2 of these at once is incredible. What a great tool to be able to do that. So I've been really happy with my Lagenda pumps. Now, I guess, let me deflate the earth here. Goodbye, Glade. The final thing I want to show you. I think these take as long to deflate as they did to inflate. The final thing I want to show you is this app. Now the app is pretty cool. I had it open earlier. What I did was I installed it on my tablet so you could see it a little bit better. I gotta be honest, I looked at the app for several days trying to figure out what was the point of it. You come into the app, now the first time you log in, you'll have gotten this instruction manual with the pump. It's not much of a manual. It kind of shows you what to do on the app. To be honest, it's not that bad to figure out, but one disadvantage of this pump being made on the other side of the world in a language that's not native to me is some things are tricky and really not originally created for me. I went to make an account. I tried to log in. It really didn't work the first few times. I ended up using a different email, and I think I still got an error message that was in another language that I couldn't remotely read. I finally ran it, took an image, ran it through Google Translate. Try this a few times. The big thing you need to know is when you put this product ID in, do put it in all caps and include that dash in the mix. So it's not too bad once you get it in. You'll have to make sure your Bluetooth's on to connect to the device. I think you can set up your account without being connected to the device. You'll see in the upper right corner here, I've got this plus. I've already connected to my pump. You may have to search and connect to it. So I've got it on, boom, gonna connect to my pump. Now, this is mainly fun, but I can switch all the pump settings right here. I can go through all my Ks. You see it switching the numbers here. The main reason I think this could be helpful is if you want to keep up with a record of how much you've used your pump, because it does help you keep up with what you've done. This is 12/4/2017. I've done for 6.6 seconds one time. I don't know exactly yet, because I haven't used it enough, what it keeps up with when it's disconnected. It doesn't seem to be everything, but when I hit this mine button, I bump over here, it tells me total balloons, some total use time, though I know I've used it for over 4.9 minutes. So the stats may be helpful to you. Quite frankly, I haven't figured out how every way they're used. So the app looks awesome, may be incredibly useful to you. I don't have much need to stand across from the room from my pump to start it operating. It's cool that I can show people I can do it. But as a pump though, great investment. I know there's some other excellent pumps out there, but I've been really happy with this one. I bought it from somewhere that would include a warranty with it for me, which not all will, and that makes me quite nervous. One thing about that app I didn't like, it's not in the App Store. You have to download it and essentially sideload it. So while I'm not worried that they're trying to put viruses on my phone or do anything nefarious, I do kind of wish it went through the store instead of having to be sideloaded, which was a little bit quirky in my app. I downloaded it and had to open it from a different spot than the immediate download file. But there you go. That is the Lagenda pump set, your options right now. I like them. I think you'll like them. Other great pumps out there, but at least now you can go ahead and make a decision with an informed choice. Have a great day. Go enjoy some balloons.